as opposed to that was a good memory, but I haven't translated it anywhere.
Yeah.
And so what I will do is I'm going to share my screen, and so you can see where I'm at in my script, and it's a guide. One
Gotcha.
other question. One other question to ask you, Rob. Are you doing when you're doing insurance? Right? Are you also doing coverage for liability and all that stuff, or are you just doing the HR side?
I'm primarily with life and health and dealing with groups and individual plans. So no, I don't do property and casualty.
Okay.
But I do life insurance as well.
Perfect, perfect. Just wanted to make sure I didn't want to steer the questions down rabbit hole. You're going, it's not me, you. Ah,
Well, I'm
perfect.
basically, adhering to the script that you sent to me, and prepared.
Oh, perfect, sir. Thank
Yep.
you. All right. So first things I got to do is I'm going to take my cell phone and put it away from the desk because although it's on vibrate, better make sure it's on vibrate. I don't want it humming onto the mic. How's my sound working for you there?
You sound 5 by 5. You're loud and clear.
Perfect. All right. I've got a bit of a wind feedback on your end. I'm not quite sure what that is, but just
It's gone now.
your magic, man. Magic fingers. Love
Uh-huh.
it. All right, and here we go. Knack for Business, Season 2, Podcast 007, September 22, 2023. Welcome to the Knack for Business Podcast. Today's topic is it wildly unexpected? Are you ready? Your hosts are Bernie Fransberg from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc. So, what can you expect from the Knack for Business podcast? The aim is to help you find your feet in the business world, whether you are just starting out or you've been at it for a while. We have something for everyone. In each episode, they dive into a particular area of business and explore the ins and outs of that subject. They interview experts in their field and hope and oh, by the way, editing, I do the editing, so that's why if there's like you have to stop and back up, it's not a problem. They interview experts in their field, share success stories from people who have the experience and who can offer practical tips and advice. Our sponsor is notionhive.com, where they offer a full service solution that encompasses everything from branding, design, social media, web development. That means they can handle every aspect of your digital presence, leaving you free to focus on what you do best. Our guest our guest today is Rob Hohmann. And let me tell you a bit about Rob. He is a business owner. Finding affordable insurance coverage has always been I'm going to start it over again. Sorry. He is a small business owner. Finding affordable insurance coverage has always been difficult, but after his insurance premiums doubled in 2014, he knew he would have to take matters into his own hands. The biggest challenge faced in running his family business for the last 16 years was acquiring high quality insurance that provided the benefits needed at an affordable price. In the beginning, with some research, he was able to find some acceptable policies, but everything changed in 2014. Their premiums doubled, and shortly after the new health reform policies were enacted. Even though his insurance agent tried to help him, the plans that were offered were either unaffordable or did not provide enough coverage. He decided he would not rely on anyone else to solve the problem for him, and he got himself licensed as an insurance agent and began looking for a solution. Through a lot of research and thinking outside the box, he found affordable policies with high coverage and high benefits. In addition, he also gained extensive knowledge on how to make sure he got the maximum value out of his insurance policy, with the least amount of out-of-pocket expenses. He realized that many small business owners were struggling with the same issues, and he had the needed solutions and that he had discovered. It was thought that scratch. It was that thought that inspired him to become a full-time insurance agent. He's passionate about providing small business owners with a highly quality. Robert is passionate about providing small business owners with highly. Ah, you know what? I don't. That first cup of coffee hasn't resonated all the way through there, so it's filtering slow. I think Robert is passionate about providing small business owners with high quality, affordable insurance solutions. The one thing he heard frequently from his clients is how thankful they are that he not only provides them top of the line insurance solutions, but also makes sure that also makes sure they use their policies wisely to maximize their benefit and minimize their out-of-pocket expenses. Looking back, he realized how important his own struggles to find the right coverage were that led him to the career that he's followed with a positive impact on the lives of many. Rob, what's your favorite quote?
That's kind of funny. My favorite quote is all health insurance sucks. But when you work with me together, we're going to find the plan that sucks the least for you. I guarantee it.
Rob, welcome. It's good to see you, sir. So,
Great to be here.
what brought you to this point? Is it just the insurance, the health insurance that was available at the time? Was it a bit more than that? Was it also a pivot from what you were doing previously in your business? And this was kind of the best path?
Um, in the US, did you know that over 80% of medical bills intentionally contain errors? And did you know that over $300 billion was spent on fraudulent billing last year? Now, unfortunately, there's a lack of awareness with policyholders as to the tactics that are actually used by providers and facilities to get you actually to pay more than what's necessary. And just to kind of glance over my background again. So I'm a
Yeah.
licensed health agent, life and health agent in 37 states. I've been licensed since 2016, and I specialize in providing comprehensive insurance solutions, including health, life, vision, dental, accident protection, medical savings accounts, debt reduction software, and annuities. Now, I want everybody to understand that I'm a broker, so I don't work for an insurance company. I work for my policyholders, and I have access to many options. And as I stated, I can provide solutions for both groups and individuals. But what really sets me apart is my advocacy for my policyholders, because my goal is for people to become consumers of their health care just like they buy everything else.
As most, that's how much is the average spend then for a business per employee for this
Uh,
type of
it,
coverage?
it just varies, with uh, yeah, every business owner has their own ideas, but there's some pretty interesting aspects that can reduce the cost of individual employees. They're doing actual self insurers. So there's all sorts of different ways of doing it. I must say, however, that the traditional group major medical policies are becoming very expensive to where it's costing like $2,000 per employee in actual costs.
Interesting. Most interesting. So, do you find that when a person comes to you, they're coming in as a group? Then is there kind of a minimum size for a business then, or is like one person shop, or 50, 500? Is it
That's a great question because um, individual, the entrepreneurs, they're usually small. That's fine, but the the federal government requires a level of insurance for businesses with 50 employees or greater, and
Mhm.
then 49 employees or less. They have a lot more flexibility in the types of policies that they can choose, and it's really based upon the benefits provided in the policies.
Excellent?
Um, Rob, do
But
you, if you are a solopreneur, can you get insurance for through you for yourself?
Absolutely, yes.
interesting. Good, good. When you're doing the insurance itself, is it based on, let's say dental? Is it family? Is it single person? And is it dependent on whether you have issues, no issues, or doesn't matter if you have issues?
That is a great question because they when you have a pre-existing condition,
Mhm.
a lot of the dental plans that you can purchase as an individual, they would have in many cases pre-existing condition clauses so they can exclude certain items from coverages. um I always tell people, though, many of these they have waiting periods. So if you have an immediate need, like say it's a root canal, if you're to actually purchase dental insurance and you have to wait 12 months before you have access to get anything done for a root canal, that doesn't make sense. So there are options to where we call it's instead of buying insurance, you would buy into a dental savings account where you can actually pay a payment and immediately have access to the reduced cost. That's a lot more effective for somebody who has a pre-existing condition or an immediate need. And there's a place called dentalplans.com that you can shop for those immediately just by even dentists. So there's a lot of dentists say, oh, I accept this, and you can buy the one that's perfect for the dentist that you plan on using.
What are the traditional packages that a small or medium business buys?
Well, the group insurance, the employers are usually going to share in the cost of the premiums with the employees. But depending on the size, it depends on how much they're going to provide if you've got spouse and dependents. In many cases, this when you are trying to cover also your spouse and dependents, you're paying full price for those plans because you can't be in separate plans. And the different types of plans available, a lot of people, the best benefits involved in group insurance is the having access to what's called a PPO network, which is the preferred provider organization, and that's usually the better of all the networks. And so it's they're going to be pretty good for helping out the employees. But then sometimes when it comes to adding spouses and dependents, it gets expensive. However, that's not always the case. So we've always just approach everything individual basis, or individual just well as business basis too.
So do you provide coverage throughout you said 37 states? And so what limits you from what state you go to the ones you can't?
um and really, I mean, if I have an opportunity to work with somebody in the state that I'm presently not licensed in, I can get a license in a matter of 24 hours, to because of my license being in my resident state of Florida. Um, the I don't have to take any additional testing or anything like that in order to get that insurance license. I just have to purchase it, and then once I do, I have access to whatever they that might be needed.
Rob, up here in Canada, um, the government mandates safety insurance for the employees. Like you get hurt on site. Is that also true in your world?
Yeah, and that's um, workman's compensation insurance is a terminology in the United States. So if you're ever
Same here.
injured on a job, but what, like I said, there are certain states in the union that require a certain level of coverage with any businesses, regardless of the amount of employees. California, I believe, Maryland has some requirements as well. Washington State's pretty demanding on how they do things too. But there's just like I said, when you get above 50 employees or 50 and above employees, you are required to provide insurance that covers the 10 essential health benefits, which are ambulatory patient services, emergency services, hospitalization, maternity and newborn care, mental health and substance abuse, prescription drugs, rehabilitative, and for drug and alcohol rehabilitation, laboratory services, preventative and wellness, and pediatric services, including oral and vision care.
Interesting. So you mentioned earlier that a lot of times when benefits are filed or someone you go in for a medical source. Excuse me one second, just got a cough. Sorry about that. So you mentioned earlier that if a person is going in for a service and there's issues with the billing, it's there are errors in the billing. How does that come about? Is it just like clerical error? Is it kind of staged? Or
Um, the um, insurance claims and billing disputes are probably the biggest thing. That's the detriment to dealing with and getting your care. And many times it could be as much as simple as they coded it incorrectly, or they just sent it to the wrong department, and claim denials. But this is something that we really take pride in, and we are very, very good at taking care of. And my wife is the head of our advocacy department. Her name is Carmel, the lovely Carmel. She is our angel of advocacy, and she last month got a $107,000 medical bill reduced to $7,000. So we're good at what we do. We'll find out the answers, figure it out. It does take time. It is very time consuming and sometimes challenging, but uh we stand, we can't guarantee anything, but we're not going to stop until we win.
I think going from 100K down to 7K, that's a pretty massive shift. That's
And I'll tell you, it's she's getting better and better and better at it. She's been doing this really for 2.5 years full time. And her first biggest win, when we started out, I had a policy holder go in to get a CT scan over a weekend through the emergency room, and wound up with a bill of $12,479. But we've figured out the tactics to use, and we turned the billing department into the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, which is where you send people for price gouging. And lo and behold, my policyholder got a phone call December 3rd, right before Christmas, and was offered a $200 settlement for the entire claim.
Wow. So,
Merry Christmas.
it's a good Christmas.
Right.
one thing is, when your employees are different ages, does their aging demographic change the cost of the insurance for the employer?
Um, Typically, policies over age 65 become a lot more attractive and affordable. But age as you age, it's you typically become more expensive in the under 65 arena. So the younger you are, the more affordable you really are. And as you age, you become a lot more expensive. But it's there's all sorts of different factors of the amount of employees and things and breaks that you get. So almost like volume discounts, so to speak, that can circumvent those situations.
For the health conditions, say non-pre-existing. In other words, you come in, the whole team or the staff pool is healthy, and all of a sudden someone has a unique type of cancer or cardiac related issue, and it's not. And having worked inside a healthcare space, there are some conditions or some medical situations. Yeah, assuming everything's simple, you're going to be in and out with 2 to 3 days typical. And then there
Mm.
are other clients that they got complications. They either have a rare blood type, which is not a medical condition, but just let's say they need a transplant. Is there a kind of a cap in how much the insurance will cover? Is there, does that take any shape or parameters? Is there a maximum?
Typically, with any kind of um, policies that are require the essential health benefits. So, there is no limit as to the extent of claims, and it's annual. So it and then there's other factors. So, you have basically there's strategies that come into play if you're doing your own self-funded as well, where the risk factor for something of that effect, they have it built in for catastrophic situations as well. But I know all about the rare blood types. I'm B negative myself. Less than 2% of the people on the planet have my blood type, and I donate blood regularly because they keep calling me as soon as I'm able to.
Do you find many health plan coverage companies say what service you have to use? Do you have to go to this dentist or that doctor or this vision care, or no?
That's based upon networks is really the key component to a lot of the policies that you might purchase, regardless of whether they're private or through a group. The network of participating doctors are important for you to maximize the amount of benefits that you're entitled to. There are ways of trying to circumvent the cost of labs, MRIs, CT scans, mammograms, all those types of things. If you go to where they tell you to go because, oh, we work well with those people, that should be a big red flag, by the way. In many cases, I tell everybody, get the order for the testing, and we can usually find a much lower cost for whatever it is you're trying to get done. Just as an example, I know a place right around the corner from my house. If I wanted to get a non-contrast MRI, I could get it for $250 cash. But if I go to the place where they tell me they work well with, I might wind up paying $4,500.
Yep, that would do it. When you're getting claims processed, how does the say I'm the employee, I work for company XYZ, we've got a plan, and I go to engage for services, let's say dental. What are my steps? What do I do? Do I just see the physician or the dentist in this case, and they say you need X? What are the next steps?
Um, Usually it's going to be in-network providers that you're going to first and foremost approach in order to get those treatments taken care of. By staying in the network, it will ultimately reduce the amount of cost that you have to put forth yourself. Now, the you know the limits on how much you spend on yourself is contingent on the plan that you wind up choosing, because a lot of times with employers you're giving choices in many cases of what, and then the choices vary based upon different things that are you got your deductibles, you've got your co-insurance, co-payments, out-of-pocket maximum limits, and all of those are going to vary your premium for the policyholder as well. So there's all these different factors that go in when choosing the policy that you're going to get through your employer as well.
Now, tell me about the difference between what the law mandates and what the employer thinks would be a benefit to attract the employees. What's the difference between the law says you have to, and we want to go beyond that because we want our employees feeling covered? Did that enter into it at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they call them benefits, and they're for employee retention. So in many cases, they're going to have employers that offer a health savings account contribution, that's going to be very attractive, because if they contribute into a health savings account, that you could use those dollars to pay for the medical expenses you incur. And it's usually a matching factor, so you must put something in for them to match into it, and that's quite attractive for many employees, and it's quite popular nowadays too.
So in the different states, I'm gonna, and I get it that they're each have a unique profile. What's typically the mandated levels of, what's available versus, listen, you're a business of a certain size and you have to have X coverage.
And that's usually where it starts. You have your, the federal level of 50 employees or more
Mhm.
require the 10 essential health benefits, and below, 49 and below offers you a little bit more in flexibility, obviously depending on which state. California has requirements that need to be provided for any employee that works within a business. So like I said, it's state to state, but it's usually the benefits provided through the coverage that is a requirement in the states. And then, like I said, the federal level, it is the benefits required above the 50, the 50 and above. And then with the 49 and below in other states, offers you a little bit more, well, actually considerably more in flexibility, where you don't really have to cover maternity if you don't wish to.
Mhm.
And it also allows you to entertain different coverages. For example, even offer them a health share, which is a very, very cost effective manner in which to handle medical expenses as well.
Tell me about EAP services. How about how does the phone work in helping your clients get more
Oh,
coverage?
you mean for telemedicine?
Yes.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I love that. I mean, telemedicine, I tell everybody, if you got telemedicine, that's the first place you start, because why would you want to go into a doctor's office if you can call somebody up and they can send a prescription to the pharmacy of your choice based upon the symptoms that you provide to the doctor? And obviously, speaking with the doctor, he's going to say, oh, you need to go to an urgent care to get this taken care of immediately. Now you have a doctor's endorsement as to what you need to do now, and you're going to feel a heck of a lot better of doing something, as opposed to, going to the emergency room when you got stung by a bee and paying, getting charged ridiculous amounts, because if you want to get the most expensive health care, go to the emergency room and they'll make sure you do.
Huh. Wow. We have that here in the province of Ontario. You can call up before you start traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Although the circumstance is a bit different from the price point, it's the driving there, paying for parking, and then waiting a few hours to realize, a Band-Aid will do the tech,
No, no,
do the.
I'll tell you what, I love the telemedicine. I mean, I've used it for bronchitis, I've used it for the flu, I've used it for ear infections. It's my wife at 4:30 in the morning, where she was getting an allergic reaction on her skin with hives all over her body. We called up telemedicine and got prednisone sent to the pharmacy, picked it up at 9 a.m. and problem solved.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yep.
Well, you are probably have clients that are in several places. Um, does your licensing interfere with your client's ability to uh, get them covered because they're in one of those 13 states that you aren't licensed in?
Um, but I really don't have issues at all. And like I said, if I have an opportunity to take care of somebody, and I've and really, it never hurts to speak with me on the phone. That doesn't cost a dime So, if you consult with me and it's like, all right, yeah, I want to get involved and I think I believe I could be a benefit for you, then, I'm going to get the requirements necessary in order for me to legally service you and take it from there.
You're mentioning earlier fraud. So you find that there's a lot of fraud on either end of the spectrum, either from the provider or from the person applying for medical treatment or
There,
services.
there are, it's unfortunate, but insurance fraud is just a huge, huge money making endeavor. And it's just very prevalent. And being an agent, I mean, obviously, I carry errors and omissions, insurance and such, just in case, I run into a difficulty. But, you know, if I'm interacting with somebody and submitted a claim, don't be just too gullible to recognize when there's an actual, you know, oh yeah, I hurt myself and I need to get, $500, and they send a bill in that's, obviously altered or something to that effect in order to gain more in benefits. You know, they got a $10,000 accident protection plan, and they submitted a bill that you could tell the price was altered. And in many cases, like I said, I like working with the accident plans that solely pay providers directly instead of reimburse the consumers, because by doing it that way, you're definitely going to eliminate any of the fraud.
Do you see medical costs? Pandemic caused some of it, and supply chain and all that language. Do you see
Mhm.
medical costs going up? Do you see them going up a lot? Do you see ways that this can be mitigated? Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, when dealing with individuals and they have experience, they're getting treatment done. Uh, Unfortunately, like I said, the emergency room is notorious for overcharging, and um, I tell everybody, because of the prevalent amount of excessive medical billing, incorrect medical billing done on purpose. If your bill is $2,500 or greater, you know what? Let's challenge it and have the mentality of never pay the first bill, and request itemizations of charges, so that way we can review and make sure that what we're being charged for is something that actually was something that was performed on the policyholder in order for us to acknowledge that we need to pay for it. So in many, you'll see situations where somebody got 3 stitches in the emergency room, but then they get charged for, the level of an evaluation for somebody who had a heart attack, which costs a heck of a lot more than somebody who had 3 stitches.
Wow. Uh, when you provide the coverage for someone and they say travel out of state or out of country, does that coverage follow them?
It all depends on, because some of the over 65 plans will give you a level of coverage outside. One thing I did not elaborate on is that I also do sell insurance travel. If you're going out of the country for a period of time, I can also provide you with cost-effective solutions to cover you when you visit other places around the planet as well. But and it's usually, really, like I said, it's usually pretty cost effective to get, anywhere from 500,000 to $2 million worth of coverage. Um, and it's all about your comfort and your budget.
So if my employer sends me overseas or to another other part of the country in the US, then that coverage will follow me. Or are we talking, let's say I'm going on vacation, I just, it's wintertime and I don't want to be here, or it's hurricane season because it is Florida. It should be too windy for me to be here. Let's go somewhere else for a while.
Mhm.
And it's a holiday journey you're taking.
And
Are
that's a
those
great question, because The Affordable Care Act, every state is required to provide access to guaranteed issue policies through the marketplace. And those policies typically only work in an area of the state you reside or in solely the state you reside. When you leave the state, it's life threatening and it's determined by the insurance company instead of a doctor. So I recommend to many people that if you're traveling outside of the state and you have a benefit that limits your capacity to receive coverage when you're traveling, let's look into a cost effective. You're traveling to another state next door for a period of time, and it could be as little as $35, but it's going to offer you that protection.
Up here, there's a big issue with making sure that your records are safe, and that they can't be stolen in or broken into. And yet it makes it a lot harder for the patient to talk to other doctors and other specialists. Where are you on electronic record sharing?
In the United States, HIPAA was passed by Bill Clinton. He was involved with that. And your medical records, your personal information is, that's another reason why I have errors and omissions, because I could, by sharing information of a policyholder without the policyholder's consent is grounds for removal of your license. So, and really, they don't feel very comfortable about emailing information. They're more comfortable about doing like snail mail, postal service delivery of medical records as opposed to faxing and things like that. But it's about the every individual in the United States, according to HIPAA, has the ability to decide who gets to see any of their medical records. And if you're looking to share your medical records with, say, a specialist because you've just graduated into a serious situation, you can have those medical records delivered to that providers for their viewing capabilities.
Is that a federal legislation or a state level, at the state level?
It is a federal legislation, and it was, like I said, it was signed into law by Bill Clinton. I believe it was 1993 is when that actually became standard operating procedure.
That's interesting. And there are stories coming out of the U.S. about people, if you're going for treatment, and I don't want to get into the there's certain treatments that are not allowed for, and I'll leave it at that within certain states. And if you go to another state, that state wants, the home state can ask for the information, the medical information. Is that covered by PHIPAA, or is that something else that's it's not so much insurance coverage, it's more legal obligations of the home state. I'm skirting around the issue, and I'll probably cut this part out. But if I'm talking about abortions, for example, right?
Oh,
So
I say,
I'm not trying to hit the abortion button. I'm just trying to understand.
And that is probably the states are now allowed to dictate the procedures for the abortions, and it has been removed from the federal level, so each state has their own policies, and it's the choice of the individual in that state, and they have the capacity to go to that state if they want to get something that's not offered in their residential state per se.
Right. Yeah. I'm going to work it through, because the purpose of the podcast is not to be a political football. And, I'm not looking to light a match and, oh, look, it burns nice.
Well, I try to stay as clinically, objective and factual as possible. So I don't think you're getting any trouble as far as opinions weren't shared.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Wayne, do you have anything? Okay, so sorry, just I went down one rabbit trail, and all of a sudden my series of questions are kind of off to the left. My apologies. Um, from the health record providing, do you find that with the electronic health records that you do get that you're allowed to transmit that are in a secure state, does that help make the whole business more efficient for between the healthcare institutions, the patient, and the coverage?
Yeah, certain coverages, private insurer. So the Affordable Care Act requires that pre-existing conditions need to be covered. So they call that guaranteed issue policies.
Mhm.
Private insurance has the ability to restrict, eliminate, underwrite, and disregard pre-existing conditions. So if you have a private plan that operates off of the pre-existing condition clauses, they have the right to request medical records in order to underwrite, evaluate at the time a claim is submitted to determine whether or not it was a pre-existing condition. And you're just adhering to the guidelines set forth with the clauses indicated in the policy that you decided to choose. So the other thing too is it's so frustrating when an agent is misrepresenting a policy and articulating as if it's a guaranteed issue policy when in fact it isn't. And then you come to find out that you have to pay for a claim because that was left out when you made your decision. It happens way too frequently. It just bothers the heck out of me. My philosophy is you never have to remember what you say as long as you speak the truth. And Mark Twain said that. So let's give him credit. But by not disclosing limitations and exclusions contained in the plan, you are basically omitting, and that's, errors and omissions claims.
Mhm.
You're omitting information, allowing them to be able to make an accurate decision because it's all about their needs and their budget. And if this policy you're selling or providing isn't going to say they have, MS, and this policy is not going to cover pre-existing conditions, you have no business putting that person into that policy. And we have found people that have actually been sold those types of policies that don't provide services, treatments for pre-existing conditions, and they knew that that person had MS. It's just unfortunate. I hate it, those agents that are selling a policy that's going to be making them more in commissions than providing the benefits necessary for that policyholder to be happy. It's just unfortunate, and it's pretty much what gives health insurance agents a bad name in the United States.
On your training and what you've seen and the unpacking of your job, what's the worst or most interesting health coverage scare or scenario you've run into?
Is so one of those like you're never going to believe this kind of situation.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. And obviously I can't disclose any person's names or anything like
Obviously.
that. But I think it's the happier ending situations that really are the ones that I remember, where people were actually diagnosed with an illness, and there's some things that are called critical illness benefits, and they fortunately, when they got diagnosed, they got a lump sum amount of money that allowed them to not have to dig into their savings or remortgage their home, and they were able to effectively pay off everything with their insurance and then any kind of obligations that might be outside of it. But the great thing about critical illness benefits, say for instance you're being treated with a not FDA approved treatment, so it's basically it's not an approved treatment. It's something that just hasn't been FDA approved yet. There is no insurance policy that's actually going to pay for those treatments. But if you get a lump sum critical illness benefit, there's a lot of life insurance policies that I provide that have these things called living benefits. And if you're given $150,000 worth of tax-free lump sum because you were diagnosed with cancer, and you have the ability to go to Mexico and pay for it with the funds that you received from those benefits if you wish. And I've had several individuals with cancer diagnoses that were able to really not have to pay anything out of pocket. And I had one gentleman who had a mini stroke, so he got this critical illness benefit, and it's your money. He put a down payment on a 3,500 square foot home and bought a new house.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a bit different. Yeah. So Rob, if a business comes up to you and says, listen, I've got a pool of employees, I want to do coverage. What are the top 4 things that you are going to ask, and how they should, what should they have ready on hand to provide you the information so that they get the best deal and it works for you and the insurer?
Well, number one, what is your budget? What do you plan on spending for each individual employee? Do you plan also on covering their spouse and dependents? Are there any things that you want to exclude, depending on whether or not you're a larger corporation? Because if you're a smaller organization, you can say, yeah, I don't want to offer drug and alcohol rehabilitation, mental health. I don't want to offer maternity, something like that. But after, it's just like doing a needs analysis for an individual, you're doing a needs analysis for a business.
Excellent. So Rob, how can folks get a hold of you?
Well, actually, if you scan the QR code that's on the screen, you'll be able to get my digital business card, and it's got my phone number, my email, and it's also got some links in there to actually set up a appointment to do either a telephone call or a Zoom, 15, 30 minute, an hour. Usually doing an initial consultation, 15 minutes is really all we need. I'm gathering some details. I don't like trying to figure out what's going to be the best course of action for you while you're sitting there around waiting on the phone. I'm going to let you go and we're going to set an appointment. We're going to go over my findings, and it's very simple. And you don't pay for anything until you buy a coverage. Now, the advocacy aspect of that I provide, you don't even have to have insurance in order to get the advocacy, and the advocacy is quite affordable. We only charge $10.99 per month for an individual, $17.99 a month for a couple, and $24.99 for a family. Now, say for instance, you've got group coverage through your employer, but you want to use Rob and Carmel to be your advocates. You can still do that. It's just a monthly fee, and there's no contract. There's no monthly requirements, but we'll go to battle for you, and we're good at it. We get results, and I love it when people are like, that are existing policyholders and such, and I got this $5,000 bill from urgent care. What the heck's up with this? And turns out she only pays $350. And like I said, just recently, somebody $107,000 medical claim and only has to pay $7,000. I mean, it's you're not going to go bankrupt for 7,000.
Absolutely.
But really, I mean, um, getting an advocate is the most important thing I have to recommend for you. I mean, we're going to make sure we assist in confirming or participating doctors and facilities. We're going to shop for lower cost labs, x-rays, CT scans, MRIs, mammograms, ultrasounds. We're going to assist with your claim submissions too and negotiate those excessive medical claims. But say you're just all of a sudden given a prescription that your coverage is not covering, we can also find you reduced cost prescriptions. We've got access to, if you do a bulk purpose, I had somebody that monthly prescription was $1,200 and they were able to get 90 days worth for $199 of the same prescription. So, we have a lot of different techniques, but and also with us, we're going to make sure that you're aware of all the benefits that you have available to you within the plan that you currently possess and make sure you're leveraging those. And, just all about maximizing your experiencing and minimizing your out-of-pocket cost. And we also teach you how to better navigate. And the biggest thing that people neglect is, there essentially there's 5 questions I recommend everybody ask when you're going to a doctor and they're saying, all right, we got to get this done, we got to get this done. I always say, ask them, do I really need this test or procedure? What are the risks? Are there simpler or safer options? And what happens if we don't do anything? And then ultimately the biggest one, how much does it cost? In the United States, it's the only industry where we don't require a quote before we get a procedure done. I mean, if you're getting your car repaired, you get a quote. You're buying a car, you get a quote. Getting your house painted, plumber's coming to fix something. But I don't know what it is about the United States, Oh, you're going to need open heart surgery. How much is that going to cost? Why not? I mean, ask it. Let's figure it
Yeah.
out. You're entitled to it.
If I know you're limited to the service in the U.S., U.S. territory or U.S. space,
Right.
but if I'm a foreign national and I'm going to set up shop in the U.S., is that something that you can work with? As long as I have an office or have some, I don't know what's required, but what if that were the circumstance? But basically, I'm going to have people working and operating on my behalf in the U.S.
And if there are any requirements, I can show you or advise you on the most cost effective way of getting you to a situation that you can actually entertain policies that suit your needs and budget. And there are many plans that are out there. If you have a certain number, I know people from Mexico, it's not so much like a green card, but it is I forget the acronym, I think EIT number, but nonetheless, we can investigate and figure out what it is that you need in order to qualify for coverage. And worst comes to worst, just like I can sell people who travel to the United States, I can get them coverage as well for a period of time. So if it's only for like 3 months you need coverage, and you come to the United States and you're European national, I can get you coverage that's going to work for you in the U.S.
Excellent, Rob. That's really good. That's good information to know and share.
Mm-hmm.
And first off, I'd like to say thank you, Rob Hohmann, my co-host
Thank you.
Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners, for being here and listening to the to our story and what we know. Acknowledging the support, I'd like to express my thanks to the following folks: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where I am a co-host; Melanie Weber, my invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves both as a coach and a co-host to these podcasts. To reach me, I can be reach me, info at creativeinsight.com, info at creativinsight.com, or creativeinsight.com. Wayne, how can folks reach you, sir?
Best way is my website, and motivateyou.ca, MOTIVE, the letter numeral 8, the letter U.ca. And my email is wayne@motivateyou.ca.